Power has never belonged to the strongest person in the room, but to the one who knows how to control themselves when others are losing control. Machiavelli warned that the moment you react emotionally, the moment you let anger, ego, or fear decide your next move, you surrender your power to someone else. Most people think offense is strength. They believe striking quickly makes them dominant. But Machiavelli reveals a darker truth. Offense is often the ultimate trap because the one who reacts first almost always becomes predictable, exposed, and easy to manipulate. Everyday life is full of invisible games, and whether you like it or not, people test you constantly. Someone provokes you not to defeat you, but to study how you respond. Someone disrespects you, not because they're confident, but because they want to push you into an emotional reaction where they gain psychological leverage. When you react instantly, you show your weak points, your insecurities, and your internal chaos. But when you pause, stay silent, observe, and choose your response with intention, you instantly flip the power dynamic. You become unreadable, unpredictable, and impossible to manipulate. Machiavelli understood that silence is not weakness, it is strategy. The person who doesn't react is not passive, they're calculating. They watch what everyone else misses. They analyze motives, patterns, vulnerability. While others burn their energy trying to prove a point, the silent strategist conserves power until the perfect moment to act. Most people enter conflicts emotionally, but strategic people enter conflicts only when the outcome favors them. They don't fight every battle. They select battles that guarantee victory. Look around your life. The biggest mistakes you've made likely came from emotional reactions. You spoke when you should have stayed quiet. You fought when you should have observed. You defended yourself when the smarter move was to let the other person expose themselves. Machiavelli warns that the world is filled with traps disguised as opportunities to react. Someone attacking you suddenly, they're waiting to see you panic. Someone disrespecting you subtly, they want you to break composure. Someone provoking your ego, they want you to reveal your limits. The wise person never reacts on the enemy's timing. Instead, they shift the situation so the opponent reacts on theirs. Human nature has a predictable weakness. People want to feel important, and ego drives them to respond immediately. But Machiavelli teaches that ego is the first enemy you must conquer. When you learn to remain calm, when others expect you to explode, you become someone who cannot be controlled. Fouette. Your calmness becomes a weapon. Your silence becomes a mirror that forces others to reveal themselves. People show their true motives when you don't give them the reaction they expected. And in that revelation, you gain the advantage. True power lies in emotional detachment. This doesn't mean you feel nothing. It means you control when and how you express what you feel. It means you understand that timing is more powerful than intensity. Anyone can explode in a moment of anger, but only a strategist can sit with that anger, analyze it, and turn it into a calculated move. Machiavelli believed that patience is more deadly than rage because patience lets you wait for the moment when the opponent least expects your move. When you refuse to react instantly, you switch from being the hunted to the hunter. You break the rhythm of your adversary. You deny them the emotional chaos they wanted to create. You allow their strategy to collapse because every plan built on provoking you fails the moment you stay composed. You become a psychological ghost, present, watching, but impossible to pin down. People fear what they can't predict. They fear someone whose emotional state they cannot access. This fear becomes your shield, your influence, your unseen authority. Machiavelli understood that the world respects the person who controls themselves more than the one who controls others. When people see you respond slowly, deliberately, without urgency, they assume you know something they don't. They assume you have confidence, information, and power that gives you no reason to rush. Your calmness intimidates without effort. Your silence makes others insecure. Your delayed response forces them to doubt themselves. And doubt is the greatest enemy of those who try to control you. Every conflict becomes easier when you observe before acting. You begin to notice patterns. Who gets loud when they're afraid? Who gets angry when they're guilty? Who becomes quiet when they're plotting? You understand the hidden motivations behind people's behavior. And once you understand motivations, you control outcomes. Most people respond to words. Powerful people respond to intentions. Most people react to what happens. Powerful people react to why it happened. Machiavelli teaches that the smartest move in a hostile situation is to let the opponent make the first mistake. When you hold your ground quietly, people overplay their hand. They reveal too much. They escalate too soon. They underestimate your restraint. And when the moment arrives when you finally choose to act, your move is precise, decisive, and unstoppable. You strike only once, but it's enough, because your strike is not emotional, it is strategic. The danger of reacting emotionally is that it narrows your vision. You stop thinking broadly. You stop planning, you focus only on the moment, not the consequences. And that is exactly what your opponent wants. Reactivity makes you blind. Calmness makes you aware. Stillness gives you clarity. When you learn to detach your emotions from the immediate situation, you begin to see the battlefield from above. You see the traps, you see the opportunities, you see the hidden weaknesses, you see the path to victory. Understand this, you don't lose when someone attacks you. You lose when you respond without thinking. You don't lose when someone disrespects you. You lose when you let that disrespect control your actions. You don't lose when someone irritates you. You lose when their irritation becomes your decision-making. Machiavelli's warning is clear. Power is lost the instant your emotions become visible. Life will continue to test your composure. People will push your boundaries. Situations will challenge your patience. Unexpected events will try to drag you into chaos. Your strength is not shown in how loudly you resist, but in how quietly you maintain control. The world cannot break a person who refuses to let external noise decide their internal state. Refusing to react is not avoidance, it is mastery. When someone tries to provoke you, remember, they want control. When you remain calm, remember, you still own it. And when the moment finally arrives to act, you will move with the accuracy of someone who never let emotion cloud their vision. Machiavelli believed that the person who controls the timing of the conflict controls the outcome of the conflict. And the person who acts only when the moment is right, rather than when their emotions rush them, is the person who wins without needing to fight. You lose the moment you react. But the moment you choose to stay silent, to observe, to wait, and to respond when the world least expects it, you become unstoppable. Every person you meet is carrying their own agenda. Every word spoken, every gesture made can be a test, a trap, or an opportunity. Machiavelli understood that the world does not operate on fairness or kindness. It operates on strategy, perception, and control. And the most powerful way to maintain control is through restraint. The one who reacts impulsively gives away their secrets, their weaknesses, their limits, their vulnerabilities. But the one who waits, who watches, who listens, holds all the cards. When someone tries to insult you, notice the rhythm of their speech, the tension in their body, the hint of desperation in their eyes. People rarely attack randomly. There is always intention behind it. They are probing, feeling for the cracks in your armor. And if you react immediately, whether with anger, defensiveness, or self-justification, you have handed them the blueprint of your psyche. They now know exactly how to manipulate you. Your power has been given away freely, and often you won't even realize it. Silence is your ally. Observation is your tool. Patience is your weapon. By not reacting, you force others into action. They must fill the void of your silence. They must commit to a course of action without knowing what you plan. And in doing so, they expose themselves, their intentions, and their weaknesses. A reactive mind may think it is striking first, but the calm mind is always the one who controls the game. Power is never in the first punch. It is in the one that lands after careful calculation. Consider history, consider human interaction. Leaders, strategists, and conquerors have always succeeded not because they were the quickest to act, but because they were the most disciplined in controlling when and how they acted. Reactivity is the habit of the weak, the impatient, the inexperienced. And offense, while often celebrated as strength, is really a chain that binds you to another person's rhythm, another person's plan, another person's chaos. To react is to surrender your freedom. To act with deliberation is to reclaim it. Machiavelli warns that offense is seductive. It promises dominance, quick satisfaction, and immediate gratification. But these are illusions. They are traps. Reacting gives the opponent the stage while you become the performer, dancing to their tune. Your anger is their music. Your frustration is their rhythm. And the longer you let this continue, the more predictable you become. Predictability is weakness. Unpredictability is power. To master this, you must cultivate inner calm like a fortress. Every thought, every impulse must be examined before it is acted upon. You must learn to sit with discomfort, with insult, with provocation without letting it dictate your behavior. This does not mean being passive or weak. It means being conscious. You are observing, assessing, learning, and waiting for the precise moment when action serves you, not your adversary. This is the essence of strategic power, the ability to convert patience into dominance. The people around you will test you constantly. Some will provoke intentionally, some unconsciously, but all will seek a reaction. Your job is to refuse to grant it. You must be like water, fluid, calm, adapting, but unstoppable in your force when directed with intention. Every reactive individual is trapped in a cage built by their own emotions. Every strategic individual walks free, moving at the pace of their choosing, deciding when and where to strike, if at all. Machiavelli understood the human ego intimately. It is fragile, it is impulsive, and it is dangerous if left unchecked. By mastering yourself, by not reacting to offense, you create an aura of invulnerability. People begin to respect and fear what they cannot predict. They hesitate, second guess, and ultimately, they lose. The person who refuses to react has the advantage of foresight. The person who reacts lives moment to moment, forever trapped in the game of others' making. Every conflict in life, personal, professional, or social, is a test of this principle. Someone insults you online or in person, someone spreads rumors or tries to undermine your position. Your first instinct might scream for retaliation, but Machiavelli whispers a different path. Let them reveal themselves. Let their words and actions expose their character. When you remain calm, when you choose your response carefully, you no longer fight on their battlefield, you choose your own on your terms. The moment you react, even just internally, your opponent has won. The moment you pause, breathe, and assess, you are the one in control. You transform from prey into predator. You turn chaos into opportunity. You convert offense into strategy. And over time, this discipline becomes second nature. People learn that provoking you is futile. They learn that you are not manipulated by emotion, but guided by principle and intelligence. This is power that cannot be taken. It must be earned and honed within. The ultimate trap is the illusion of urgency. The world will always try to rush you, pressure you, corner you. Reacting quickly gives the illusion of control, but in reality, it binds you. Responding deliberately, after observation, analysis, and strategy, is freedom. You gain clarity, you gain insight, you gain influence. You gain power that is quiet, invisible, and yet undeniable. Every interaction in life is a test of self-control, whether we recognize it or not. Some people will push your buttons just to see what happens. Others will provoke you to measure your limits. Machiavelli observed that human nature is predictable in its flaws, especially in the moments of offense. People are quick to react when insulted, when challenged, when their pride is threatened. But reaction is a form of surrender. It gives others access to your mind, your emotions, your vulnerabilities. The first person to act loses the game because they are playing on the other person's terms, not their own. Consider how often you've witnessed conflicts escalate unnecessarily. Two people argue, tempers flare, and decisions are made that later cause regret. The spark was small, but the reaction magnified it. Machiavelli teaches that the real power lies not in fighting every battle, but in choosing when to enter and when to wait. Waiting is not weakness. Waiting is wisdom. Waiting allows you to see the full landscape, to understand the motivations of those around you, and to act with precision rather than impulse. Silence is often misunderstood as passivity. People mistake quiet for submission, inaction for fear. But true silence is strategic. It is a shield and a sword. It gives you time to analyze, to understand the situation, and to let others reveal themselves. When someone expects a reaction and receives calm observation instead, they are disarmed. They are forced to navigate uncertainty, and uncertainty is the most destabilizing force in human interaction. History provides countless examples of this principle. Leaders who reacted emotionally often fell to those who waited patiently and acted deliberately. Caesar did not rush into every battle. He calculated, observed, and struck at the perfect moment. Sun Tzu, centuries before Machiavelli, wrote that all warfare is based on deception and timing. The one who reacts first often walks into a trap. The one who waits creates the trap. Even in everyday life, the principle is the same. Your calmness becomes a weapon, your restraint becomes a shield, and your patience becomes a tool for victory. Emotional reaction narrows vision. When you react, your perception becomes clouded. You focus only on the insult, the attack, or the provocation. You forget to see the broader picture, the hidden motives, the long-term consequences, the patterns of behavior that reveal true character. Machiavelli understood that those who react emotionally are predictable, while those who control their reactions are unpredictable and therefore powerful. People fear what they cannot predict. By mastering your reactions, you command both respect and fear. Offense is seductive because it tempts you with immediate satisfaction. Retaliation feels good in the moment. It makes you feel strong. But that strength is temporary and deceptive. The true measure of power is the ability to act at the right time in the right way for the right outcome. The person who reacts first is often the one who loses control, and once control is lost, it is nearly impossible to regain. To master offense, you must first master yourself. Consider the modern world where provocation is everywhere. Social media is a constant test of patience. Someone insults you online, and the immediate urge is to respond, to defend, attack, or humiliate, but Machiavelli's warning applies. The instant you react, you lose. The person who posts first, comments first, or replies in anger is playing by someone else's rules. The person who waits, observes, and acts with strategy is the one who shapes the conversation, controls perception, and emerges stronger. Emotional restraint is not natural. It must be cultivated. It is a skill that requires awareness, patience, and discipline. You must practice observing your impulses, questioning your immediate desires to act, and delaying response until clarity arises. The world rewards those who master this skill because most people cannot. Most people are slaves to reaction. Most people are impulsive, short-sighted, and predictable. By contrast, the one who controls themselves becomes a force others cannot anticipate or manipulate. Every insult, every challenge, every provocation is an opportunity to practice restraint and strategy. Each time someone pushes your buttons and you remain calm, you strengthen your power. When you learn the rhythms of human behavior, the signs of manipulation, the ways people try to control you, you build a psychological advantage that grows with every test. And eventually, you reach a point where provocation has no effect, where offense bounces off you, and where your calm becomes a weapon that shapes outcomes without even needing to strike. The moment you react, you allow others to dictate your narrative. You allow them to control your emotions, your decisions, and your perception. But when you pause, when you wait, when you choose action deliberately, you reclaim that control. You decide the pace, the method, and the result. Machiavelli reminds us that the true measure of power is not in the ability to act swiftly, but in the ability to act wisely, to act strategically, and to act when the time is right. Even in personal relationships, this principle holds. Arguments with friends, family, or colleagues often escalate because someone reacts too quickly. Anger, hurt, or frustration becomes fuel for conflict. But when one person remains calm, listens, and responds thoughtfully, the dynamic shifts. The reactionary person is exposed. The composed person holds authority. Over time, this builds a reputation of invulnerability and insight where people learn that you are not controlled by emotion, but by strategy and foresight. Machiavelli understood that life itself is a battlefield. Offense, provocation, insult, and challenge are constant. The moment you allow them to dictate your actions, you lose more than a single battle. You lose autonomy, clarity, and power. But when you cultivate patience, observation, and deliberate action, you transform every offensive moment into an opportunity. You see the hidden motives, anticipate the outcomes, and position yourself as the one who decides when and how the game ends. The practice of non-reaction is not about weakness or passivity. It is about mastery. It is about training the mind to see beyond the immediate, to think several moves ahead, and to act with precision rather than impulse. The calm mind is the weapon of the strategist, the shield of the powerful, and the source of influence that cannot be shaken by momentary chaos. Machiavelli's warning is timeless. The instant you react, you surrender the advantage. The instant you pause and assess, you reclaim it. Every leader, every strategist, every influential person throughout history has understood this principle, even if they didn't call it by Machiavelli's name. Napoleon Bonaparte, for instance, rarely reacted in the heat of battle. He observed, he waited, he calculated. His opponents, rushing to exploit perceived weaknesses, often fell into traps he had quietly set. Reactivity, in their case, led to disaster. Calm, measured observation allowed Napoleon to turn the tide even in situations that seemed hopeless. In personal interactions, this principle is no less powerful. People constantly test boundaries, friends, colleagues, even strangers. They may provoke, tease, or insult, seeking to draw an immediate response. Those who react first become predictable. Those who remain calm, however, gain insight. They see motives behind words, detect insecurities behind aggression, and understand the subtle strategies others employ. The quiet observer is not weak. They are learning, cataloging, and preparing. Machiavelli's warning applies not just to offense, but to the illusion of urgency. The world pressures us to respond quickly as if speed equates to power. In reality, rushing without thought is the fastest route to losing influence, control, and respect. Think of any argument you've had where immediate reaction led to regret. Words spoken in anger, decisions made impulsively, gestures done in frustration. These moments often cause irreparable damage. By contrast, the pause, the breath, the deliberate choice to act later gives clarity, leverage, and authority. Psychologists have studied human reactivity and found that most people make poor decisions under emotional stress. Emotional arousal narrows perception, exaggerates threat, and limits creativity. Reaction is the natural response of the untrained mind. Deliberation is the tool of the disciplined one. When Machiavelli speaks of offense as the ultimate trap, he is pointing to the psychological reality. Provocation works because humans are predictably reactive. Mastery of self, therefore, is mastery of circumstance. Let's take an example from politics. In public debates, politicians who react to personal attacks often lose credibility no matter the truth of their argument. The audience sees emotional response and assumes it is a sign of weakness. The calm politician who pauses, listens, and responds strategically shifts the power dynamic. They are perceived as intelligent, composed, and in control. Their reaction is not absent. It is deliberate. They strike only when it benefits them, demonstrating that power is a function of timing, not impulse. Even in business, the same principle applies. Negotiators who react to provocation often reveal priorities and weaknesses. A client pushes aggressively, a competitor insults, a partner attempts to manipulate. If you respond immediately, you hand over information. If you pause, observe, and act strategically, you retain leverage. Machiavelli's principle is universal. Whether in battle, business, politics, or personal life, the first person to react loses the invisible war. It is also important to note that restraint does not mean passivity. Waiting, observing, and controlling one's reactions is a form of active power. It is strategy in motion. Every insult, every challenge, every attempt to provoke is an opportunity. Each moment of restraint allows the strategist to gather information, analyze intentions, and prepare a response that maximizes influence while minimizing risk. The reactive person acts on impulse. The strategic person acts on knowledge. History provides countless examples of those who mastered reaction. Abraham Lincoln, often insulted and provoked during his political career, famously responded with calm and patience, even in the face of personal attacks and political sabotage. He understood that the momentary satisfaction of reaction was a trap. The power lay in measured strategic response. His composure strengthened his position, earned respect, and allowed him to guide a nation through chaos. Even in daily life, Machiavelli's principle can be applied. Someone cuts you off in traffic, an acquaintance speaks harshly, a colleague undermines your efforts. The instinctive response might be anger, confrontation, or retaliation. But these reactions are exactly what the provocateur seeks. The real power is in restraint, observing the situation, understanding motives, and responding when action serves your purpose. Each instance of self-control builds mastery, reputation, and influence. The danger of offense is that it plays on the human desire for validation. People want to defend themselves, to prove a point, to assert dominance. Machiavelli warns that this desire is exploitable. The one who reacts first is often doing so to satisfy ego, not strategy. And ego-driven reactions are always predictable. The disciplined person, in contrast, acts without attachment to pride or impulse. They act with intention, understanding, and foresight. Machiavelli also reminds us that offense is often a distraction. People who provoke do so to draw attention away from their own weaknesses, to shift focus, or to manipulate perception. By reacting immediately, you step into their narrative. By remaining calm, you control the narrative. You see the deception. You gain the upper hand. Power is not about who shouts the loudest. It is about who shapes reality quietly, invisibly, and with precision. Every moment of restraint reinforces inner strength. Each time you refuse to react, you demonstrate control over yourself that others cannot match. Over time, people learn that provocation is useless against you. They realize you are not manipulated by their tactics. Your calm becomes a psychological shield, your patience becomes influence, and your deliberate actions become instruments of strategy. Consider the great generals of history: Alexander the Great, Hannibal, and Genghis Khan. What separated those who achieved legendary power from those who failed was not speed or brute strength, but control over reactions. Alexander often faced provocations from rival kings or rebellious subjects. His instinct might have been to respond immediately, but he waited. He observed, he calculated, and he struck when conditions were in his favor. His enemies reacted impulsively, exposing their weaknesses, and in doing so, handed him victories without forcing him into unnecessary conflict. Even in modern leadership, the same principle applies. CEOs, political leaders, and influential figures understand that reacting in the heat of the moment often costs more than it gains. Tim Cook, for example, rarely responds impulsively to criticism or attacks in public forums. His calm, measured responses convey control, authority, and strategic mastery. People respect leaders who think before they act because they understand that true influence is not about winning the immediate skirmish, but about shaping long-term outcomes. Psychologically, humans are wired to react. Our fight-or-flight instinct was designed for survival in moments of immediate danger. But in social, professional, and personal conflicts, this instinct often works against us. Reacting impulsively magnifies mistakes, misreads intentions, and reduces options. Machiavelli recognized that the greatest vulnerability of any person is their uncontrolled reaction. The one who can pause, assess, and choose their response is effectively immune to the traps others lay. Even simple, everyday provocations illustrate this. Someone cuts you off in traffic, or someone interrupts you in a meeting, someone insults you online. The immediate urge is to retaliate, to assert dominance, or to defend your pride. But reacting in that instant gives the other person power over you. They have shaped your actions, your emotional state, and your focus. The strategic response is always to pause, observe, and decide on the action that best serves your long-term objectives. The person who masters this is never controlled by others. They control themselves, and therefore they control the situation. Offense, Machiavelli warns, is a trap because it plays on our ego. Humans want to prove themselves, to assert strength, to respond to slights, and those who provoke know this. They rely on our predictability. But a person who masters self-control refuses to be baited. They see the provocation for what it is: a test, a distraction, an opportunity for the provocateur. By remaining calm, they seize the real advantage: information, clarity, and control over timing. Consider diplomacy as a practical example. Nations provoke, threaten, or insult each other constantly. The reactive nation often escalates, responding with measures that may be impulsive, costly, or strategically unsound. The patient nation observes, analyzes, and responds only when conditions are optimal. They wait for the opponent to make the first misstep, and when they act, their actions carry far greater weight because they are calculated rather than emotional. This principle, though ancient, applies to every conflict at every scale, from international politics to personal disagreements. Even in personal relationships, this principle holds. Arguments with friends, family, or colleagues often spiral out of control because someone reacts too quickly. The initial insult or misunderstanding is magnified by an emotional reaction, creating consequences far beyond the original issue. But when one person exercises restraint, listens, and responds thoughtfully, the dynamic shifts. The reactionary person exposes their weaknesses, while the composed person asserts control. Over time, this creates a reputation of reliability, wisdom, and unshakable composure. The practice of non-reaction is a form of self-mastery. It requires awareness of your own impulses, understanding of others' motives, and patience to wait for the optimal moment. Each time you resist the urge to react, you strengthen your control over yourself and your environment. Each pause, each breath, each deliberate choice reinforces your authority. People begin to learn that provocation has no effect on you. Your calmness becomes a weapon that subtly shifts power in your favor without ever striking overtly. Machiavelli also points out that offense is a weapon used by the weak to destabilize the strong. Those who lack real power often resort to provocation, manipulation, or aggression to control others. Reacting to their provocations is exactly what they want. By staying composed, you neutralize their strategy and reveal their lack of true power. They become predictable, transparent, and powerless against someone who does not play by their rules. Every conflict, every confrontation, every challenge is an opportunity to practice this discipline. Each time you resist reaction, you learn more about human behavior, about strategy, and about yourself. You develop the ability to anticipate moves, detect manipulation, and respond with precision. The reactive person acts on instinct, the strategic person acts on insight. One is led by circumstance, the other creates circumstance. The most dangerous moment in any confrontation is the one immediately after provocation. That instant determines the course of events. React impulsively, and you are trapped in the opponent's game. Pause, and you regain control. This is why silence is more powerful than words, observation more powerful than action, and patience more powerful than strength. Machiavelli understood that controlling this moment, the moment of reaction, is controlling the game itself. The ultimate lesson is clear. You lose the moment you react. But when you pause, observe, and act strategically, you reclaim the moment. You turn offense into opportunity, chaos into advantage, and provocation into insight. You transform weakness into strength, impulsivity into discipline, and vulnerability into power. Over time, this mastery becomes your identity. Arguments with family, friends, or colleagues often spiral out of control because someone reacts too quickly. Emotional responses amplify conflict, create misunderstandings, and damage trust. By contrast, responding after observing and reflecting allows the true dynamics to reveal themselves. The reactive person exposes their triggers. The composed person holds the upper hand. This mastery transforms the landscape of any interaction, social, professional, or intimate. Offense is a tool of the weak, Machiavelli warns. Those who lack true power attempt to destabilize others by provoking reactions. They rely on predictability, on human tendency toward ego-driven response. By refusing to react by observing silently, you render their strategy ineffective. They expose themselves, their limitations become visible. Their influence collapses and your authority strengthens. The one who controls themselves controls the situation. Power, therefore, is cultivated internally first. Mastery of self precedes mastery of circumstance. Every insult, every challenge, every provocation is an opportunity to strengthen that mastery. The more you practice restraint, the more you see the hidden motives behind actions, the more you anticipate moves, and the more precise your interventions become. Reaction is instinct. Strategy is skill. The instinctual person plays on the opponent's terms. The strategic person shapes the terms of engagement. Machiavelli also emphasizes timing. The greatest danger is not offense itself, but responding on the opponent's schedule. The reactive person moves in haste. The strategic person waits for the perfect moment. Timing amplifies power. A single, well-timed action can achieve what hours of reactive effort cannot. The one who acts impulsively burns energy, exposes weakness, and loses opportunity. The one who waits observes, learns, and acts decisively when conditions are optimal.